Tennessee.
I request permission to address the House for 5 minutes to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection.
Madam Speaker, this morning I was honored to go with 5 other members, 3 Democrats and 3 Republicans, to have breakfast at the Pentagon with the Secretary of Defense, Robert Gates. The Secretary is a kind man, and this was a very nice thing for him to do. I have great respect for Secretary Gates. The purpose of the breakfast was to discuss the situation in Afghanistan. When I got this invitation, I wondered if I should go, since I've been very much opposed to our war there. However, I decided that the only right and fair thing to do was to go listen to what he had to say. Unfortunately, I still believe that what we are doing in Afghanistan is a horrendous waste that we cannot afford. I also believe that Afghanistan is no realistic threat to us unless our war there continues to anger so many people around the world. George C. Wilson, military columnist for the Congress Daily, wrote recently, quote, "The American military's mission to pacify the 40,000 tiny villages in Afghanistan will look like mission impossible, especially if our bombings keep killing Afghan civilians and infuriating the ones who survive." General Petraeus said this summer we should not forget that Afghanistan has been known as, quote, "the graveyard of empires." Congressional Quarterly reported on September 17th that members of both parties were, quote, "fretting openly about a lack of progress in the conflict." As much as Americans love our troops, we need to realize that the Defense Department is not just a military organization. It is also the world's largest bureaucracy. Every gigantic bureaucracy always wants to expand its mission and frequently exaggerates its challenges so it can get more money and personnel. The Taliban guerrillas have almost no money, and a top UN anti-terrorism official said recently that al-Qaeda is having, quote, "difficulty in maintaining credibility." National defense is the most legitimate function of our federal government. However, that does not mean Congress should automatically or blindly approve the Pentagon's every request or never criticize its waste. Much of what we are doing in Afghanistan is of a civic, charitable, or governmental nature, like building schools and teaching agribusiness. But the Defense Department should not be the Department of Foreign Aid or much of our military, primarily a very large version of the Peace Corps. In March, the President promised, quote, "a dramatic increase in our effort in Afghanistan, including agricultural specialists and educators, engineers, and lawyers." Why, when we are $12 trillion in debt, are we spending mega billions in Afghanistan doing practically everything for them? We are spending money we do not have on a very unnecessary war and jeopardizing our own future in the process. Many people think that all conservatives support this war. Well, I believe that there are many millions of conservatives who do not and who want us to bring our troops home, the sooner the better. In fact, this war goes very much against traditional conservatism. When I was in high school, I worked as a bag boy at an A&P grocery store making $1.10 an hour. I sent my first paycheck, $19 and some cents, as a contribution to the Barry Goldwater campaign. I am still one of the most conservative members of Congress, but this war has required huge deficit spending, almost $500 billion in war and war-related costs for Afghanistan. Fiscal conservatives should be the people most upset about this. This war has spent mega billions in foreign aid because probably at least half of what we have done and are doing there is of a civic or charitable nature. Traditional conservatives have been the strongest opponents of massive foreign aid. We went into the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and other places under UN resolutions, yet conservatives have traditionally been the biggest critics of the UN. Conservatives have traditionally been the biggest opponents of world government because it is too elitist and arrogant and too far removed from control by the people. We should not now support what is essentially world government just because it is being run by our military. I am a veteran and I am very pro-military, but I am for national defense, not international defense. I know that the leaders of Afghanistan want us to keep spending hundreds of billions there, but we cannot afford it. We cannot afford it economically, and as far as I'm concerned, it is not worth one more American life. I know that when leaders of the Defense Department and the State Department and National Security Council all get together in their meetings, that all of the pressures are on getting involved or staying involved in just about every military, political, or ethnic dispute all around the world. I know they want to be considered as great world statesmen. But 8 years in Afghanistan is not only enough, it is far too long. It is time, Madam Speaker, to come home. It is time to start putting our own people and our own country first once again. I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back.
Madam Speaker.
What purpose?